Early one morning, firefighters rushed to a blazing house, alerted by a calm, eerily precise call from 6-year-old Emily. As flames engulfed her childhood home, Emily stood outside, clutching her teddy bear, seemingly prepared for their arrival. Her demeanor was unsettlingly composed, a stark contrast to the chaos around her. What the firefighters discovered about Emily's actions left them utterly astonished. "Hi there," firefighter Werner said as he approached little Emily. Thick tears rolled down her red cheeks and she quietly sobbed. "Where are your mom and dad?" Firefighter Werner asked kindly. Emily paused her sobbing for a moment, suddenly looking up and meeting Werner's eyes. As their eyes met, a cold chill ran down his spine. There was no emotion in her eyes at all. Emily's eyebrows loosened up and the tears stopped flowing. So Werner asked again, "Where are your mom and dad, sweet girl?" "Gone," Emily coldly answered. Werner's smile faded instantly. Did she really just say that? He didn't know how to react, so he just sheepishly chuckled and handed her over to a police officer. "Find her parents," he said to the officer, his voice urgent. Firefighter Werner focused his attention back on the burning house. He ran to it, calling out to anyone who might still be inside. "Try to scream if you're in there," he said, as he tried to enter the house. But the flames were too big to go in safely. He could only hope Emily had been home alone. But why had she set the house on fire? And where are her parents? Early Monday morning, the fire department's alarm echoed through the building. Firefighter Werner and his team rushed into their suits and slid down the pole to their trucks. As they sped through town, Werner asked his colleague who had answered the phone call for a situation assessment. The voice through the phone sounded small, not older than 5 or 6 years old. Firefighter Kumar said. That was all Werner needed to hear to know this was going to be a difficult case. But little did he know, he still underestimated it. They saw the thick black smoke from a mile away. And as they turned into the street, they saw how big the flames already were. Nothing would be salvageable. He only hoped everyone got out in time. Arriving at the house, firefighter Werner's stomach dropped at the sight of the lonely little girl standing on the front lawn. He ordered his team to search for life, and then began to put out the fire, fearing the little girl's parents were still inside. Werner quickly ran to the girl, asking her if she knew where her parents were. But her answer couldn't have been more chilling. "Gone," she simply said, as she abruptly stopped crying. It was like she turned it off. From the outside, she seemed like an upset girl crying about the stressful situation and being all alone. But there was something behind her eyes that threw Werner off. The way she said her parents were gone, with no emotion whatsoever, was very unsettling. By then, the police officers had arrived, and Werner quickly handed the little girl over. He urged the police to find her parents, but didn't tell them exactly why, as his voice and face said enough. After that, he ran to the burning house. He wanted to go in, but his colleague stopped him. "The flames are too high. It's not safe." Werner had a gnawing feeling that something was very wrong with this case. He ran around the house, calling out to anyone who might still be inside. He listened to every sound, no matter how faint, but nothing indicated that there were people left in the burning flames. Finally, after hours of hosing down the house, the flames were out. Catching a breath, Werner and Kumar looked at the charred house, still smoking a little bit. The flames had taken everything they could, leaving only ruins. Taking a deep breath, Karim petted Werner on his shoulder. "Let's get inside, shall we?" he said, as he approached the charred house. It was time to look for the cause of the fire. Firefighters Werner and Karim entered the charred house, their boots crunching on burned debris. The stench of smoke and ash filled the air, and the floor creaked ominously beneath them. "Watch your step," Werner warned, shining his flashlight around. The walls, once vibrant with memories, were now blackened and crumbling. That we need to be thorough, Kareem added, his voice muffled by his mask, as they moved deeper into the ruins. They searched the house thoroughly, relieved to find no human remains. Every room they entered held traces of a life abruptly interrupted. "Looks like no one was inside when it happened," Werner said, peering into a collapsed bedroom. Kareem nodded. "Thank God for that." Their search revealed scorched furniture, shattered windows, and a pervasive sense of loss, but no signs of life caught in the flames. Near the curtains, they discovered melted wax, indicating arson. Werner knelt down, examining the waxy residue with a frown. "This doesn't seem right," he murmured. Kareem joined him, shining his flashlight on the suspicious find. "Candles?" Kareem asked. Werner shook his head. "More like someone started this fire on purpose." The revelation hung heavy in the smoky air, adding a new layer of mystery to the tragedy. Werner and Kareem discussed the unusual finding, suspecting the fire was set deliberately. Who would do this? Kareem wondered aloud, shaking his head. "And why would a kid be involved?" Werner added, his mind racing. They both stood in the charred remains of the living room, piecing together the disturbing clues. "That we need to get this information to the authorities," Werner concluded, feeling the weight of their discovery. They documented the scene and prepared to report their findings to the authorities. Werner took photos of the melted wax and other suspicious areas, while Kareem made detailed notes. "This is critical evidence," Kareem said, his pen scratching across the notepad. Werner nodded. "That we need to make sure everything is accounted for." With their documentation complete, they knew it was time to take the next step. Werner called the police from the scene, reporting the arson evidence. "We found melted wax, which suggests the fire was set intentionally," he explained, his voice steady. Officer Daniels, on the other end, listened intently. "All right, we'll send a team to investigate further." "Anything else?" Werner hesitated, then decided to mention Emily. "There's more." "Something about the little girl?" He trailed off, unsure how to explain her eerie composure. He informed the police about Emily's strange behavior and suspicions of her involvement. "She was oddly calm, almost like she expected us," Werner said, his brow furrowed. "She said her parents were gone without any emotion. It felt off." Officer Daniels took notes, his expression growing more serious. "That's unusual for sure." "We'll need to talk to her again," he replied, considering the implications of Werner's observations. The police, already with Emily, took note of Werner's observations. "Emily, can you tell us more about what happened?" Officer Daniels asked gently. Emily stared back with wide, unblinking eyes. "I called because the fire was big," she said simply. Another officer, taking notes, looked up at Daniels. "Werner's got a point. Something's not adding up here," he whispered. Daniels nodded, pondering the next steps. Officer Daniels, now leading the case, acknowledged the new information. "We need to dig deeper," he said to his team. "So get a background check on the family and see if there's any history that might explain this." The officers dispersed, each with a task. Daniels remained, watching Emily closely. "She's key to this whole thing," he muttered, determined to uncover the truth behind the fire. The police began to shift their focus to investigating Emily's role in the fire. "We need to find out what she knows," Daniels instructed. "Interview her teachers, neighbors, anyone who might have noticed something unusual." The team nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. Back at the station, they prepared to question Emily further. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, but many questions remained. At the station, Officer Daniels offered Emily a glass of water to make her comfortable. "Here you go, Emily," he said softly, Placing the cup in front of her, Emily took it without a word, her small hands wrapping around it. Daniels watched her, trying to read her expression, but her face remained blank. He took a seat across from her, preparing to ask some gentle questions. He gently questioned her about the previous evening, using a calm tone. "Can you tell me what happened last night?" Daniels asked, keeping his voice steady and kind. Emily sipped her water, then placed the cup back on the table. "The fire happened," she said flatly. Daniels nodded, encouraging her to continue. "Do you remember how it started?" he asked, hoping for more details from the little girl. Emily's emotionless demeanor and vague answers frustrated Daniels. "It just did," she said, her voice devoid of any inflection. Daniels leaned forward slightly, trying to connect with her. "Were your parents home when it started?" he asked. Emily shrugged, her eyes staring past him. "They were gone," she repeated. Daniels felt a surge of frustration, but kept his voice calm, not wanting to scare her off. Despite his efforts, Emily provided no useful information about the incident. "Do you know who might have started the fire?" Daniels asked, hoping for a breakthrough. Emily shook her head, her face still expressionless. "No," she said simply. Daniels sighed inwardly, realizing he was getting nowhere. Every question seemed to lead to a dead end, and Emily remained as inscrutable as ever. Daniels noted Emily's unusual behavior, which deepened his concerns. He jotted down his observations: lack of emotion, vague responses, and unsettling calmness. "Something isn't right," he thought, watching her closely. "Emily, can you tell me anything else about last night?" he asked one last time. Emily just shook her head again, silent and unreadable. Daniels knew he needed to dig deeper to find the truth. Frustrated, Officer Daniels intensified his questioning, seeking clearer answers from Emily. "Emily, this is very important. I need you to think hard and tell me everything you remember," he said, his tone more insistent. Emily blinked slowly, but her expression didn't change. "I told you, it just happened," she repeated. Daniels leaned in, his patience wearing thin. "Someone started that fire, Emily. Do you know who?" Her silence was deafening. Another officer interrupted, calling Daniels outside with urgent information. "Daniels, we need to talk," Officer Ray said, sticking his head into the room. Daniels frowned, glancing back at Emily before following Ray into the hallway. "What's so urgent?" Daniels asked, trying to mask his irritation. Ray looked serious, his face etched with concern. "It's about Emily's family," he began, leading Daniels away from the room. In the hallway, the officer informed Daniels about contacting Emily's grandparents. "We managed to get in touch with her grandparents," Ray explained, his voice low. "They're on their way here now." Daniels raised an eyebrow, processing the information. "Her grandparents," he repeated. Ray nodded. "Yeah, they're pretty shaken up, but said they'd be here within the hour." This news added another layer to the already complex situation. Daniels learned the grandparents were en route to the station, arriving in an hour. "All right, let's make sure everything is ready for them," Daniels instructed, rubbing his temples. Ray nodded and headed off to make the necessary arrangements. Daniel stood in the hallway for a moment, contemplating the new development. This could be the break they needed to understand Emily's situation better. He returned to the interrogation room, pondering the new development. Sitting down, he looked at Emily, who was still clutching her glass of water. "Emily, your grandparents are coming to see you," he said gently. She looked up, her eyes momentarily flickering with something unreadable. Daniel sighed inwardly, hoping that their arrival would shed some light on the mystery. There were still so many unanswered questions. At the charred house, firefighters packed up, but Werner decided to stay and investigate further. I need to look around a bit more, Werner told Kareem, who gave him a questioning look. You sure about this? Kareem asked. Werner nodded, determined. Yeah, something doesn't sit right with me. As the rest of the team packed up and left, Werner and Kareem stayed behind, ready to dig deeper into the mystery. Werner's team left, except Kareem, who stayed to assist his colleague. Thanks for sticking around, Werner said, appreciating the support. Kareem shrugged. Couldn't let you do this alone. They re-entered the charred remains of the house, flashlights cutting through the lingering smoke. Let's start with the bedrooms, Werner suggested. Kareem nodded, and together they moved toward the back of the house, where the bedrooms were located. Inside, they discovered Emily's parents' room nearly empty, missing most of their clothes. Werner frowned, opening closet doors to find them almost bare. This is strange, Kareem muttered, pointing to the empty hangers. Where are all their clothes? Werner wondered aloud, scanning the room. The bed was made and personal items were missing. It's like they packed up and left in a hurry, Kareem noted, puzzled. Werner and Kareem speculated about the parents' sudden departure. Do you think they knew the fire was coming? Kareem asked, glancing at Werner. Maybe, but why leave Emily behind? Werner responded, shaking his head. None of this makes sense. If they were in danger, they should have taken her with them. Kareem nodded, deep in thought. We need more information about the parents, he said finally. Their discovery added another layer of mystery to the case. First, a child starts a fire. Now this, Werner muttered, feeling the weight of the unknowns. Kareem agreed, there's definitely more to this story. They documented the room, noting everything that was missing. We should report this to Daniels, Werner suggested. As they finished, the sound of footsteps approached, hinting at another unexpected development. A woman appeared at the front doorway, introducing herself as a neighbor. Hi, I'm Mrs. Thompson from next door, she said, peering into the charred remains of the house. Werner and Kareem exchanged a glance before stepping forward. I saw the fire and thought I should come over, Mrs. Thompson continued, her eyes wide with curiosity. Do you mind if I ask a few questions? Werner asked politely. She reported seeing a car leaving the house the previous evening. I was out watering my plants, Mrs. Thompson explained, and I saw a car drive off around 9 p.m. It seemed unusual because it was so late. Werner's interest piqued. Did you notice anything else about the car? He asked. Mrs. Thompson nodded. I think I saw the license plate. Let me try to remember. The neighbor mentioned finding Emily's parents odd, clearly eager to gossip. They were always so secretive, never really talked to anyone, Mrs. Thompson said, leaning in conspiratorially. And that little girl, always so quiet. It's strange, don't you think? Kareem exchanged a look with Werner, sensing the woman's eagerness to spill more details. Anything else unusual? Kareem prompted, hoping for more useful information. Werner thanked her, obtained the license plate number, and asked her to leave as the house was now a crime scene. We appreciate your help, Mrs. Thompson, Werner said, jotting down the number. But we need you to leave now. This is a restricted area. She nodded, still curious but understanding. Of course, I just wanted to help, she said, stepping back. Good luck with everything. Realizing the house was intentionally set on fire, the neighbor's eyes lit up. Oh my, so it was arson, she asked, her voice filled with a mix of shock and excitement. Werner nodded, trying to remain professional. We're investigating all possibilities, he said. Mrs. Thompson's expression changed to one of intrigue. Well, I hope you find out who did it, she said, finally turning to leave, her curiosity evidently satisfied. The woman left, and Werner and Kareem returned to the station. That was interesting, Kareem remarked as they walked back to their truck. Werner nodded, deep in thought. Yeah, but it's another piece of the puzzle, he replied. They drove in silence, both men contemplating the strange twists this case had taken. As they pulled into the station, Werner knew their work was far from over. Werner felt something crucial was still missing from the case. There's got to be a key detail we're overlooking, he muttered to Kareem as they got out of the truck. Kareem agreed. Maybe the car will lead us to more answers. Werner nodded, determined to follow this lead. Let's get this information to the police and see what they can dig up, he said, heading inside the fire station. Werner called the police, reporting the car and license plate number. This is Werner from the fire department, he began. We've got a possible lead. A neighbor saw a car leaving the scene last night. He gave the license plate number to Officer Daniels, who was taking notes on the other end. Got it. We'll follow up on this immediately, Daniels assured him. Officer Daniels issued a search warrant for the car based on Werner's information. This could be the break we need, Daniels told his team. They moved quickly, gathering the necessary paperwork and mobilizing officers to locate the vehicle. If this car is connected, it might explain a lot, Daniels thought. He hoped the warrant would lead to more clues about what really happened that night. Werner hoped this lead would uncover the missing pieces of the puzzle. Maybe this will tell us where Emily's parents went, he said to Kareem as they waited for updates. I hope so, Kareem replied. This case has too many unanswered questions. They both felt the weight of the investigation pressing on them. As they waited, Werner's thoughts turned to Emily and her mysterious behavior. Emily's grandparents arrived at the station, but were not allowed to see her immediately. We need to ask you some questions first, Officer Daniels explained gently. Mrs. Whitman, Emily's grandmother, looked worried. Is Emily all right? She asked. Daniels nodded. She's safe, but we need to understand what happened. Mr. Whitman put a comforting arm around his wife. We'll do anything to help, he said firmly. Officer Daniels questioned them about Emily's parents and her behavior. Can you tell me about her mom and dad? He asked. Mrs. Whitman sighed. They've been under a lot of stress lately. Mr. Whitman nodded, but they love Emily. They would never leave her alone. Daniels leaned forward. Has Emily ever shown any unusual behavior? The grandparents exchanged a glance before shaking their heads. The grandparents defended Emily, shocked at the suggestion she set the fire. Emily would never do something like that, Mrs. Whitman exclaimed. She's just a little girl, Mr. Whitman added, looking bewildered. Daniels remained calm. We understand your concern, but we need to consider all possibilities. Mrs. Whitman's eyes filled with tears. There must be some mistake, she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniels revealed evidence of arson, pointing to Emily as the only one home. We found melted wax near the curtains, indicating the fire was set intentionally, he explained. The grandparents looked horrified. But she's just a child, Mr. Whitman protested. How could she be capable of such a thing? Daniel sighed. We're not saying she did it, but we need to understand what happened that night. The grandparents struggled to process the accusations against their granddaughter. This doesn't make any sense, Mrs. Whitman said, shaking her head. Why would Emily do something like this? Mr. Whitman added, there has to be another explanation. Daniels nodded, understanding their disbelief. We're trying to find out the truth, he assured them. Right now, we need your cooperation to piece everything together. Emily's grandparents were stunned by the revelation of her being alone. How could she have been by herself? Mrs. Whitman asked, her voice shaking. Mr. Whitman looked equally shocked. They would never leave her alone, he insisted. Officer Daniels watched their reactions carefully, noting the genuine surprise and concern. "That's why we need to get to the bottom of this," he said calmly, trying to reassure them. They insisted Emily's parents were loving and would never leave her. "John and Lisa are devoted to her," Mrs. Whitman said, wiping away tears. "They've always been protective," Mr. Whitman added firmly. Daniels nodded, understanding their perspective. "We're not questioning their love for Emily," he explained, "but we need to know everything to help her." The grandparents exchanged worried glances, still in disbelief. Suddenly, a distressed couple stormed into the station, calling for Emily. "Where's our daughter?" the woman cried out, her voice filled with panic. The man beside her looked equally frantic, scanning the room. "Emily," he shouted. Officers quickly moved to calm them down. Daniels approached, holding up his hands. "Please calm down. We need to talk," he said, trying to defuse the situation. Officer Daniels calmed the couple and showed them Emily through the window. "She's right here. She's safe," he assured them, the woman's eyes filled with tears of relief as she saw Emily sitting quietly. "Thank God," she whispered. The man wrapped his arm around her, both of them visibly relaxing. "Can we see her?" he asked. Daniels nodded. "In a moment, we need to discuss a few things first." Emily's grandparents identified the upset couple as her parents. "John, Lisa," Mr. Whitman called out, stepping forward. Mrs. Whitman joined him, tears streaming down her face. "We've been so worried," she said, hugging her daughter. John nodded, his expression a mix of relief and confusion. "What's going on?" he asked. Daniels took a deep breath, preparing to explain the situation to the reunited family. The grandparents confronted the parents, escalating the tension. "How could you leave her alone?" Mrs. Whitman cried, anger and fear in her eyes. John looked stricken. "It was a mistake, Mom. We didn't mean to. Mr. Whitman stepped forward, fists clenched. "A mistake. She could have died," he shouted. The room grew tense as emotions flared. Officer Daniels quickly stepped in, separating the heated family. Daniels separated them, interviewing Emily's parents about their actions. "We need to understand exactly what happened," Daniels said, leading John and Lisa to a quieter room. "Tell me everything from the beginning." Lisa, still shaken, took a deep breath. "We were so tired," she began. John nodded. "We thought we could take a quick trip and be back before she woke up." Daniels listened intently. The parents explained they planned a short trip, but forgot about Emily as they left around 3, too sleepy to realize their mistake. "We were exhausted," John said, rubbing his forehead. "We packed the car and left, thinking we'd be back soon." Lisa's voice trembled. "We didn't realize until we were halfway there that we forgot Emily." Their regret was palpable, and Daniels took notes quietly. Emily's mother tearfully recounted their realization and immediate return. "We were horrified when we realized," Lisa sobbed. "We turned around right away." John held her hand tightly, his own eyes wet with tears. "We drove as fast as we could, praying she was okay," he added. Daniels nodded, understanding the urgency they must have felt. "Then, what happened?" he asked gently. "They hoped to find Emily asleep, but discovered the house in ruins. When we got back, the house was already on fire," John said, his voice breaking. "We couldn't believe it." Lisa's tears flowed freely. "We thought we'd lost her," she whispered, shaking. Daniels listened, piecing together their story. "All right," he said finally. "Let's go see Emily. We need to hear her side too." Daniels brought the parents to Emily, seeking to understand her perspective. "Emily, your mom and dad are here," he said gently. John and Lisa rushed to her, their relief palpable. "Emily, sweetheart, we're so sorry," Lisa cried, hugging her tightly. Emily looked up, her eyes filled with confusion and fear. "Why did you leave me?" she asked, her voice small. Daniels watched, hoping this reunion would bring clarity. Emily began to open up, confessing she held a burning candle to the curtain as soon as she realized her parents were gone out of spite. "I was mad at you for leaving," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I didn't mean to start the fire. I just wanted to scare you." John and Lisa exchanged horrified looks, understanding the depth of her feelings. Daniels listened intently. She felt guilty as soon as the flames erupted and called the fire department. "I saw the fire getting bigger and got scared," Emily continued, her voice trembling. "I called for help because I didn't want anyone to get hurt." Lisa hugged her tighter, tears falling freely. "You did the right thing by calling for help," Daniels reassured her. Emily nodded, her guilt still evident on her face. Officer Daniels realized it was a child's misunderstanding, not malicious intent. "Emily, I understand now," he said, looking at her kindly. "You didn't mean to hurt anyone." He turned to the parents. "This was a tragic accident." Emily didn't understand the danger. John and Lisa nodded, their relief mingled with the gravity of the situation. "That we need to make sure she feels safe and loved," Daniels added. He decided no charges would be pressed against Emily. "Given the circumstances, we won't be pressing any charges," Daniels said firmly. John and Lisa sighed in relief, hugging their daughter tightly. "Thank you," John said. His voice choked with emotion. Daniels nodded. "Just make sure she gets the support she needs." The family embraced, feeling a sense of closure after the traumatic event. Emily's family embraced, relieved to begin healing from the traumatic event. "We're going to be okay," Lisa whispered, holding Emily close. John joined them, wrapping his arms around both. "We'll get through this together," he said softly. Daniels watched, feeling a sense of peace, knowing the family could start to heal. "Take care of each other," he advised. The family nodded, grateful for a fresh start.